nice trip into town?
No, I didn't. Every place we went, folks stared at us.
Well, Pearl, you gotta expect that. Handsome woman like you, dressed to the teeth, showing a pretty ankle, folks is bound to stare.
If you ask me, they were staring at this old truck. I know it's mine, Jed, but it just ain't fitting for Beverly Hills.
You know what a couple of people yelled at us, Uncle Jed? They yelled, "Get a horse."
I reckon they'd stare more at a horse.
Jed, why don't you get one of them big, shiny limousines like Mr. Drysdale?
Oh, this old truck's right handy for fetching and toting. Need a little polish here and there. Yes, sir. You get you a piece of brick and hone all this rust off of here and then go over the whole thing with coal oil.
Say, Uncle Jed, if you was to get yourself one of them there fancy limousines, I could be your chauffeur and drive you around in style.
Yeah, you could sit in the back seat all duded up and folks would think you was a duke or a earl or something.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't reckon I'd fool nobody. Besides, I ain't particular anxious to have folks think I'm something I ain't.
You're a millionaire. Well, I bet you that's just as good as a duke or earl.
All right, Jethro, take her around and go to polishing.
You know, Jed, Mr. Drysdale could help you get into high society. And you could join one of those fancy clubs and go to stylish parties and get my picture in the paper. I mean, get your picture in the paper.
Well, I don't hanker for high society, Pearl, but if you do, I'll speak to Mr. Drysdale. You tell me that when it comes to society, his wife is one of the first hogs to the trough.
It ain't for me, Jed, but it sure would be nice for Ellie Mae. Why, she could be a debutante and have a coming-out party and...
What's that?
Yeah, it's a party where unmarried society girls meet unmarried society fellas. Why, Ellie Mae and me could get Ellie Mae could get a husband in no time.
Jed, you got my butter churn patched up?
Well, I ain't got it quite finished yet, Granny.
Jed, you have to do your chores out here in front where everyone can see you?
Well, no, Pearl, but the light's better here, and these iron chairs here make good workbenches.
But what'll the neighbors think with all this stuff out here?
Pearl's right, Jed. It does look like we're showing off.
Showing off?
Oh, I bet there's not another family in Beverly Hills has a butter churn like that one.
Paul, you got Granny's spin wheel fixed? She's going to show me how to make Lindsay onesie thread.
Oh, how am I ever going to get this family in high society?
What's that, Aunt Pearl?
Well, society is where a bunch of high-class folks do a bunch of high-class things.
Like what?
Well, like drinking tea and playing bridge and having parties and getting dressed up and going to the Opry and getting wrote up in the paper. I give up. You can't make silk purses out of sow's ears.
If Pearl's so dad blame anxious to drink some tea, I could make her any kind she wants. Some red clover, some slippery elm, or some sassafras.
I don't reckon it's the tea so much as who she's drinking it with, Granny. Pearl would like to get in with them society women like Miss Drysdale.
Yeah. Pearl always was one to want better than what she could afford.
That's Pearl. Too poor to paint and too proud to whitewash.
And while I'm sure that the bank examiners will find our fiscal situation to be sound, I am extremely anxious...
Oh, Melvin! Mr. Hathaway, do you know who's coming?
Yes, the bank examiners.
I'm sure they'll find your bank ever so tidy. Now, to important matters. I have just received this telegram from Priscilla Ralph Alden Smith Standish. She has consented to become our house guest.
Oh, surely you're jesting.
No.
Well, Priscilla Rolfe Alden Smith Standish is going to be staying at our house?
Yes, indeed, Melbourne.
Well, who in blue blazes is she?
Did you hear that? Melbourne, how can you be so uninformed and run a bank?
Well, I have you helping me, dear.
Thank goodness. Mrs. Smith Standish is only the president of the Women's Federation for the Preservation and Perpetuation of the FFT of A.
First family traditions of America.
Well, bully for the FFT of A. But I'm expecting the SBE of C.
State Bank Examiners of California.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, Milburn. Do I have your permission to put everything in readiness for the arrival of Mrs. Smith Standish?
Oh, you have indeed.
Good. I'll have the Clampetts moved out immediately.
Fine. What? Barbara, come back here. Now, what were you saying about the Clampetts?
I intend to rid our neighborhood of those uncouth, unsightly hillbillies before the arrival of our prestigious house guest.
You do, and the president of the FFT of A will be staying at the YWCA with you. When are you going to get it through your head that Jed Clampett's money is one of the pillars of this bank?
Mrs. Drysdale, if you'd only take the time to get to know the Clampetts, I'm sure you'd agree that they're basically very fine people.
Surely you're not suggesting that I mingle with them socially, introduce my friends to them.
No, don't do that. They'll move away for sure.
It's obvious that I'll get no understanding or cooperation here. I should have listened to Mother. She warned me against marrying a common bank president.
Well, we're good now, Granny. What room do you want me to put it in?
Well, I reckon in the kitchen, Jed. And whilst I'm showing Ellie how to work it, I can watch my victuals cooking.
All right, I got to do a little more fixing on the bobbin. I'll have that out in a minute.
Is it hard to learn, Granny?
Well, it's a mite tricky at first. But once you catch on to mixing the wool and the flax together, it comes easy.
Don't you go to weaving and spinning in here. I just scrubbed and polished this floor, and I don't want no linsey-woolsey dust from that crazy old contraption messing it up.
What do you mean, crazy old contraption?
I mean that old thing. Now get it out of here.
Well, should I put in the kitchen, Granny? You put that smack dab right in the middle of this room.
Don't you dare. This floor is clean enough to eat off of.
Good. Ellie, fetch my pot of jowls off of the stove.
You splatter one drop of jowl juice on this floor, and I'll rock this spinning wheel around your neck.
You touch that spinning wheel, and there'll be more than jowl juice splattered on this floor.
You lay a hand on me, and I'll bash you over the head so hard your shoes will have 3 tongues.
Drive on out to the airport and pick up Mrs. Smith Standish. I have some slum clearance work to perform.
Well, howdy there, Miss Drysdale. Sure is a nice surprise to have you come and visit. Pearl and me was just talking about you this morning. Pearl's got a hankering to get into society, and I says, well, I hear tell when it comes to society, Miss Drysdale is one of the first hogs to the trough. Say, you're looking mighty green around the gills. Come on inside and have a mess of Granny's jowls and sorghum. That'll put you to feeling bushy-tailed.
I'm expecting very important company. Priscilla Rolfe Alden Smith Standish.
Well, bring them along. We got plenty for the whole bunch.
Priscilla Rolfe Alden Smith Standish is only one woman, and probably the world's greatest authority on colonial history, early American genealogical origins, and 17th and 18th century artifacts. And she is the esteemed president of the FFT of A.
Well, we sure would be proud to meet her.
I shall call upon every resource to avert such a social catastrophe.
Oh, thank you very kindly.
May I send a truck to pick up this debris?
Well, I don't know. I'm sure Granny'd let you use anything you wanted, but I don't think she wants to sell it.
I would only want it for the rubbish collector.
Yeah, you're right. They make nice gifts, but like I
Oh,
said...
enough of this. Time grows short.
You are a disgrace to Beverly Hills. You in this pile of junk. Why don't you go back to the woods and live in a cave where you belong?
Bravo! My sentiments precisely. You are indeed a disgrace. And the sooner you leave this lovely community, the better.
Just a doggone minute, fatso. You be careful what you say to our Granny. Give us a little kiss. How dare her to say them things about sweet little Granny.
Pearl, I hope you ain't in no hurry to get into high society. I just don't think that Miss Drysdale is gonna be too quick about giving you a leg up.
You say Mrs. Drysdale is here?
Yes, ma'am. If it's all right, I'll take the bags on over to the house.
Of course. Thank you.
There goes that dad-blasted music again. One of these days, I'm going to tear out all these walls and find out where that music's coming from.
Jay says there's ghosts playing that music.
Maybe it's the rascal that used to live here.
Sure don't know many tunes. He keeps playing the same one over and over again.
Jethro, why don't you ask your teacher over to Pot's school about that music?
I'll do it, Uncle Jed. But one thing I know for sure. Somebody's going to come to that door. They always do when you hear that music. See?
Sure had it pegged right. By the way, your mom wants you in the kitchen. Honey, ma'am.
Tell me, is this your loom out here?
No, ma'am. That belongs to Granny.
May I speak to her, please?
You sure can. Come on in.
I have reason to believe. Ah, what have we here?
Well, that there is my daughter, Ellie Mae.
Spinning wheel. Where did you get it?
It's Granny's. She says it's been in her family a couple of 100 years or better.
I've got to meet Granny immediately. Oh, forgive me. I'm Mrs. Smith Standish.
Well, howdy, ma'am. I'm Jed Clampett, and like I say, this here is my daughter, Ellie Mae.
How do you do?
Howdy.
Granny's out in the kitchen churning butter. Why don't you run fetch her, Ellie Mae?
Oh, no, please. Churning butter? You mean by hand?
Oh, no, ma'am, with a churn. That's another thing that's been in her family a powerful long time.
Take me to her, will you, please?
I'd be pleasured, ma'am.
Ain't no use, Granny. You can't get a polish on this pewter junk.
The best you can, Pearl.
How can a body set a decent table with this kind of stuff? Why, if we was to have company, we'd all be disgraced. How enchanting. A vignette from the past. Oh, don't move. What a picture. The homespun dress, the colonial dust cap, the churn, the pewter, the old coffee mill. Oh, it's a tableau from another century.
Who do you reckon she is, Pearl?
Dogged if I know. May I get some pictures?
What kind of picture?
Still pictures.
She's a dad-blame revenuer. We got a trap.
Well, now, hold on, Granny. Whoa, wait.
Hey, you let her take your gun. Now we'll have to rush her bare-handed.
I don't figure this lady is no revenuer. She's just powerful took with old thing.
How long have you had this rifle?
Well, my pa gave it to me. His pa gave it to him. I reckon his pa done the same.
Marvelous. And the churn. How long have you had this?
Granny, ain't that the churn that saved your great-great-granny from the Injuns?
It sure is.
Oh, tell me about it, would you?
Well, my great-great-granny was a toting this churn from the cow barn to the cabin. When two big Indians jumped out of the woods to scalp her. She had beautiful hair, just like mine.
Get on with the story, Granny.
Well, she was out of sorts to begin with, 'cause it was a hot day, and the butter kept a-melting. And with them two redskins trying to snatch her hair, that riled her up but good. So she yanked up the dasher, and she whacked one of them with it. Then she upended the turn over the other one. That old Indian ran out into the woods, all covered with hot, melted butter. He hadn't gone 50 feet when a great big old bar came out of the woods, grabbed that old rascal, and licked him to death.
What a wonderful story.
From then on, every day that old bar would come around looking for Granny to send him another hot-buttered Indian.
Melvin, do you know what that is?
No, what is it?
That is a hog jowl.
Oh, well, thanks, dear, but I have other plans for lunch.
I have just been pelted with those repulsive objects by your friends and our neighbors, the Clampetts. Milburn, this is the last straw. Call out the militia. Have the neighborhood rezoned. Write our congressman. Do anything that's necessary, but get rid of those hillbillies.
Oh, Margaret, they're not a bad sort.
They're barbarians. And I warn you, Milburn, just as they brought about the decay of Rome, so Beverly Hills will crumble and...
Oh, please, Margaret, relax.
Oh, you don't understand such things as class war. You're of common birth. But we of the aristocracy have always had to fear the hostility of peasants. I tell you, Milburn, those Clampetts are dangerous. If they'll attack me with hog jowls, think what they might do to a woman like Priscilla Ralph Alden Smith Standish. And she's due to arrive any moment.
Oh, she has arrived, Mrs. Drysdale. Your chauffeur just phoned. He dropped her off at the Clampetts, thinking you were there.
Oh, they have her. She's been delivered into the hands of those savages.
Well, get those savages on the phone. We'll prove to Margaret that everything is all right.
This may be the oldest piece of pewter ever to be found on this continent. Now, I'm just mortified, Mrs. Smith Standish. I'm been after Cousin Jed to get rid of all this junk. Now that he has money, I'm going to throw it all out. No, please, it's priceless.
Say, Miss Smith Standish, if you like old things, just wait till you get into this trunk. You'll be happy as a heifer in red clover.
Marvelous. Unbelievable. Is this your family Bible?
Well, no, not anymore. It got too old. Commenced to crisping and flaking off, so they pitched in, got another one about 100 years ago. It's in there in parlor.
Well, I'll get it, Uncle Jed. Hello?
Dedicated to Queen Elizabeth.
Yes, ma'am. This is Jethro.
Mr. Clampett, this is an original Geneva Bible. It's sometimes called the Puritan Bible. 400 years old.
Oh, why, yes, ma'am, Miss Hathaway. She's right here. You want on the phone, ma'am?
Not now. Tell him I'm all tied up.
Hello? Oh, she can't talk right now. She's all tied up in Uncle Jed's trunk. Hello? Hello?
I thought the fresh air would revive her.
Oh, Milburn, what if they've strangled my president? Or she's suffocated in that trunk?
Mrs. Drysdale, I am certain the Clampetts would not do violent harm to Mrs. Smith Standish. Jethro has a way of confusing the facts.
I can't tell you how thrilled I am to participate in this historical recreation.
No, honey, this is what you call spinning. You gotta hold your thread tight.
I will.
Oh, untie this woman. Madam President, what have they done to you? Milburn, call the police. I want these ruffians seized and hanged immediately.
What are you doing?
Rescuing you from the grimy clutches of these peasants.
Peasants? My dear Mrs. Drysdale, it may interest you to know that I have established almost beyond a doubt that Mr. Clampett here is a direct descendant of the first man to come ashore at Jamestown, Virginia, May 13th, 1607.
What? You mean?
I mean that when your family and my family arrived on the Mayflower, his family was waiting for them.
Mrs. Miss Standish, surely there must be some ghastly mistake. Perhaps you're in a state of shock from the way these people have mistreated you.
I've never been more hospitably treated in my life. I've dined on hog jowls, sorghum, Homemade bread, fresh churned butter, served on pottery that might have been unearthed at Williamsburg. And I've eaten this delicious food with ancient pewter implements that would grace any museum.
That reminds me, I better go wash them dishes.
Oh, Granny, you know, I'm sure that Mrs. Drysdale would consider it an honor and a pleasure if you would permit her to wash these historic dishes.
What? Oh, you would indeed consider it an honor, wouldn't you, Margaret?
Whatever Madam President says, of course.
Well, I better come along and see if I got enough lye soap.
Lye soap. How ghastly.
Make it myself.
You make your own lye soap?
Got to. You can't buy it in Beverly Hills. I offered to show Mrs. Drysdale how to make it, but she didn't care to learn.
Mrs. Drysdale, am I to understand that you are ignorant of the process by which your own colonial ancestors made their soap?
Well, Madam President,
Oh, your education has been shamefully neglected.
It's about time to add some more lye and some possum renderings, Miss Drysdale.
Oh, Mrs. Drysdale, I hope you appreciate the historical significance of this opportunity. You are reenacting the making of soap just as it was done more than 300 years ago.
Oh, yes, indeed, Madam President. I'm thrilled.
She's so happy, she's crying.
I wouldn't have missed this for $1 million. Tax exempt.
Oh, Chief, the bank examiners are waiting.
Yes, I know. Oh, Miss Standish, don't forget you promised to let my wife wash dishes, too.
Oh, I wouldn't think of depriving her of the thrill of handling those authentic colonial implements.
And in the good old colonial way, no automatic dishwasher.
Heaven forbid.
Mrs. Smith Standish, I have known you only a few brief minutes, but already you are one of my favorite people. We shall return.
I've lost my coiffure, my mascara, and my manicure.
Oh, best forget about them, honey. If they fell in that soap, they's dissolved by now. How you doing, Miss Drysdale? I can scare you up a few more things to wash if it pleasures you.
Oh, no, please. Look what this lye soap has done to my head.
Yeah, they is nice and pink and rosy, ain't they?
Raw.
I don't blame you for cheering.
I thought you left. I couldn't tear myself away from the picture of my wife washing dishes.
She's taken to it like a cold hog to warm mud.
Exciting, Mrs. Drysdale, discovering that your next-door neighbors may be descendants of the very first settlers.
Well, if it's true, but I just can't believe it. The Clampetts are so uncouth, so unrefined.
I prefer unspoiled.
Yes, Madam President.
Yes, Ro? Did you ask your teacher over to Pot School about that music like I told you?
Oh, yes, sir, Uncle Jed. She explained it to me, and I got it all wrote down. First of all, that there music is what you call chimes. Them's holler tubes that makes ringing sounds when struck by a plunger or striker. Say, oh, yes, sir. Now then, there is a reason why them chimes only ring when somebody comes to the door.
Like as if there was a lookout up on the roof of watch.
That's right. You see, there is a little button, and pushing that button makes that plunger hit them chimes.
Doggy.
So whilst you go ahead and go to the door, I'm going up on the roof and catch that rascal that's pushing that button.
Why, the ladies, come in, come in.
Good morning, Mr. Clampett.
Have a chitlin.
Oh, what a treat, of course. Thank you.
Thank you.
Where's Granny?
Oh, she's out in the kitchen stone grinding some cornmeal.
Stone grinding cornmeal? Now, that's something we must see, Mrs. Drysdale. Come along.
In a moment, Madam President. Mr. Clampett, will you tell your cousin Pearl that my car and chauffeur are at her disposal?
Sure will. Pearl! You gonna eat the chitlin?
Oh, yes, of course. By the way, Mr. Clampett, just what is a chitlin?
Oh, these ain't ordinary chitlins. These is Granny specials. They is possum innards deep fried in boiling hog fat.
Jack?
Pearl, how come you to be using Miss Drysdale's car?
Well, kid, now that we's high society, I can't be seen riding around in that old truck.
When is we high society?
Since that historical lady found out that your ancestors come to this country for the Mayflower.
What's that got to do with me?
That's the way society works, Jed. The earlier your kinfolk got here, higher up that puts you.
I reckon the high society folks is the Indians.
No, it don't work that way.
How come?
I don't know how come.
Well, they was here for anybody else.
Now, Jed, let's not try to change the rules. Let's just start enjoying the game. Up to now, Mrs. Drysdale's treated us like wet dogs at a wedding.
Yeah, it's kind of warmed up.
Warmed up? She can't do enough. Why, she's having her chauffeur take me to all the fancy stores and then to her beauty saloon.
I'm certain there must be an easier way to grind corn.
Oh, there is. Now, back home, we took our turn of corn to the grist mill down by Catfish Creek. Here in Beverly Hills, they ain't got no creek nor river to turn the mill wheel. So we have to go back to grinding corn like we learned from the Indians.
But surely any supermarket would...
Mrs. Drysdale, this is a priceless experience. A direct contact with the past. You can read about these things. But to actually participate in activities familiar to our ancestors it's to hold history in our hands.
I don't think I could hold anything in mine.
Smarter might, do they?
I'm afraid they do.
Isn't it shameful how soft we've gotten?
Well, you come on over here, Miss Drysdale. There ain't nothing like hot soapy water good for sore hands.
Oh, thank you.
And this here soap will take the sting out of the pain.
You're very kind.
And while you got your hands in the hot soapy water, why, you might as well do a few of these dishes. Dishes? Well, you seem to set quite a store on handling all of these old historical pewter pots and pans.
Oh, I do. I do. But I have to meet my husband at his bank immediately. In fact, I'm late now.
But don't you worry, Miss Drysdale. I'll save up a bunch of thrills for you, like churning and lye making and corn husking and chicken plucking and goat milking. My days! She does enjoy it. Did you see her run so she could hurry back?
Now, whose idea was the two baby goats?
Ellie Mae's.
If I didn't know. I declare, girl, you are the limit when it comes to dragging home critters. All I sent you for was a couple of chickens and a milking goat for Granny.
I know, Pa, but these little rascals cried something awful when we commenced to taking their ma away from them.
Oh, dear, I forgot that Pearl has my car.
Oh, Miss Drysdale, someplace you gotta go?
Yes, to the bank to see Milburn. I'll call
a cab.
Oh, no, that'd be downright unneighborly of us to let you do that. Would Jethro and Ellie Mae can drive you down there?
Sure will.
In this truck?
And one good turn deserves another. After all, you let Pearl take your car.
Oh, yeah, you got the backseat all to yourself, Miss Drysdale.
Terrible, sorry. I better call up.
Ain't nobody can get you there faster than we can, Miss Drysdale.
Don't worry, Miss Drysdale. This hickory bench is tied on good and tight.
Yeah, but
Here, Mrs. Drysdale, you can hold that little fella so he won't bother me when I drive.
Now, remember, she's in a hurry, but drive careful, Jethro.
Well, I think I better not go with you. Everyone is staring at me.
I bet you that beautiful new hat they're looking at.
I have to drive down the main street of Beverly Hills.
It's the quickest way to the bank, Mrs. Drysdale, and you said you was in a hurry. One side, everybody, get out of the way.
Please.
We're doing the best we can, Miss Drysdale. Get out of the way. That's Miss Drysdale making noise like a siren. Come on, move over.
Did you come through the bank in this condition? Shame on you. How could you explain this?
The Clampets.
Don't want to hear any more complaints about the Clampets. Oh, they may be a bit unrefined, but at least they don't run around the streets of Beverly Hills smashed.
What happened to your beautiful spring hat?
Oh,
boy, crying jag. Get some coffee. I'll get her walking. Molly, I can't run this. I can't understand it. I have never seen you take a drink before the cocktail hour.
let go.
Marley, please lie down.
I will not.
Now, you're not going to be one of those kind of drunks, are you?
I am not intoxicated. I'm mortified.
The word is ossified.
When you listen to me, the Clampets are to blame for this.
Oh, of course. And I suppose Granny gave you some of her corn?
A huge bowl like this.
Here we are, Mrs. Drysdale. Have a sip of this.
Thank you, I shall. Oh, that does help.
Tell me, confidentially, what did happen to your hat?
It was eaten by a goat.
Have some more coffee, Margaret.
Mrs. Drysdale, you really must get a grip on yourself. Now, if Mrs. Miss Standish verifies that the Clampets are indeed first family material, then you too will be in the spotlight.
I'll be in the hospital. It'll help me if those uncouth hillbillies become my social peers. Life will cease to be worth living. Oh, Miss Hathaway, take me home.
Margaret. What happened to your car? Did it get smashed, too?
Cousin Pearl has it.
You get Miss Drysdale down to the bank all right?
Sure did, Uncle Jet. We got the goat tied out back in the kitchen.
Granny Milky yet?
Nope, she's saving her for Mrs. Drysdale.
Take us out to the kitchen. Miss Standish wants to look at them old things in there.
Okay, Uncle Jet.
Well, come in, whoever you are.
Bonjour, Jade.
Who are you?
Pearl, s'il vous plaît.
Earl who?
Your cousin.
Earl. What did he do at your dead beauty saloon?
That's salon, s'il vous plaît. And they made me glamorous.
They ruined your hair. He took out all the color in the curl, too.
This ain't my hair. This is what you call a flatter wig. All them high society women is wearing them now.
How come? Ain't they got no hair of their own?
Of course they have. But variety is the spice of life. See, play.
What's that s'il vous plaît?
I thought you'd never ask. That's our French.
What does it mean?
I don't know. But all them society women in the beauty salon kept a saying it to the fellas that was fixing their hair. I tell you, Jed, we gotta learn us some French if we're gonna be in high society. Oh, Mr. Chauffeur, you may go, s'il vous plaît.
Very good, madam. Good day, sir.
Yes, sir. Sure is, if it don't rain.
That's the way to live. A big limousine and a livered chauffeur. And then folks just know you's high society. All you gotta do is say a few of them French words, and they go to bowing and scraping all over the place.
What's all this stuff?
Them surprises for everybody. High society prizes.
You ain't getting me in one of them wigs.
Uncle Jed, Granny wants...
Bonjour, monsieur.
Who's she?
I'm your ma. S'il vous plaît, that's all.
Ma? Where'd you learn how to speak Italian? Hey, Granny, Ellie Mae, come look at Ma. She fell head first in a flour barrel.
We got our work cut out for us, making high society out of that one.
You can s'il vous plaît that again.
Killing me, high society ladies don't go around carrying goats.
Well, Miss Drysdale held one on her lap all the way to the bank. Didn't she, Jethro?
Oh, yeah.
What's all the commotion in here?
Looky yonder at glamorous Cousin Pearl.
Would you kindly tell me what is all so fired funny? You wouldn't know a high society woman if you'd see one.
Well, I sure don't see one around here.
Hey, look at all the fine surprises here Cousin Pearl brung for us.
What'd you bring
for me, Ma?
Now, you find out. Now, I did a lot of checking today, and I found out that high society folks, especially rich ones like us, they have what you call hobbies. Hobbies and sports.
What's them?
Them things to keep them busy, 'cause they don't do no work.
Well, that lets me out.
No, Granny, it's all right to work, long as the other high society people don't know you work. You see, high society folk is always bored.
How come?
I ain't sure. Probably 'cause they don't work.
Well, why don't they just work and not bother with,
Now, Jed, let's not go to changing the rules again. We're just getting into the game.
All right, Pearl, tell us what you want to do.
Well, Mrs. Smith Standish said they might be wanting to take our picture for the high society page in the newspaper. So I figure we gotta look like high society. Now, all of you go and put your clothes on, and when Miss Smith Standish sees us, she won't have to be shamed.
I don't think I want to get mixed up in this nonsense.
Granny, please.
Oh, come on, Granny. Since it pleasures Pearl so much, it can't hurt us none. Besides, Pearl knows a lot more about high society than we do.
Thank you, Jed. Pardon, Mrs. Smith Standish. Oh, Jean, what a beautiful gown. Mercy. This is my tea-drinking, bridge-playing dress. S'il vous plaît. Oh, you speak French? Oh, yeah. I mean, oui. Quelle surprise, charmant. Aimez-vous parler français? Well, you see, I speak it, but I don't quite understand it yet. Ah, c'est bien dommage. Mrs. Smith Standish, didn't you say that they might want some pictures of us for the paper? Oh, yes, if my research data's corroborated at FFTA in Virginia. Why, pictures of the Clampett family will be on front pages of newspapers all over this country. That'll include me, won't it? But of course. Well, I just want you to know you won't have to be ashamed of us. Now, why would I be ashamed? Well, you know, not having much education and culture and hobbies and not speaking French and all. That is, the others. Well, you don't have to worry, because I've been working on them, and you're going to be proud when you see them. Now, you sit right here, and I'll introduce them one by one.
Oh,
Miss Standish, it gives me great pleasure to present my blood cousin, that international millionaire and high society sportsman, Mr. J.D. Clampett. Jed! Do something, Jed. Polo first.
I don't know how you pole. I feel like a dang fool. Look at this thing. I don't know whether you snare them or knock them off trees.
Well, you go and sit over there, Jed. We'll be drinking tea and playing bridge directly. Granny, you're next. And now it gives me great pleasure to present that famous high society dowager and international sportswoman, Granny, whose favorite hobby is big game hunting in darkest Africa.
It's a good thing for you this gun ain't loaded.
Granny, you go on over there and sit down, and we're going to have tea and bridge. Now, those of us who is high society knows there just ain't nothing more cultured than ballet dancing. And so it gives me great pleasure to present them wealthy, bored, international young'uns whose favorite hobby is ballet dancing, Ellie Mae and Jethro.
How beautiful.
That's only hair. Come on out, Jethro.
I ain't gonna do it.
Jethro, come on out.
I don't want to, Ma.
You look fine. You're just dripping culture.
Mrs. Bodine, Jethro shouldn't be wearing this tutu.
See, Ma? I told you.
Well, I know it ain't big enough, but it's fine for the pictures. No, wait a minute. Wait. We ain't got tea and bridge yet.
Pearl?
Go away.
Oh, Pearl, come on out. Don't sit in there and sulk. Miss Standish wants us to show her how to do the Virginia reel.
You show it to her. I ain't no mood for dancing.
Oh, we can't dance it without you. Come on, everybody's getting all dressed up.
I had you all dressed up and you run out on me.
Pearl, we just ain't ready for society that high. Now, Miss Standish wants us all to get dressed for reeling. Come on out. You can wear your store-bought hair.
I can't neither. She's gone.
Is that old goat get it? Crazy enough to eat anything.
I have the most dreadful premonition that I'm making a terrible mistake in coming back here.
Oh, think of your career. Mrs. Smith Standish has virtually promised to support your candidacy for West Coast Vice President of the FFT of A.
Margaret Emerson Drysdale, Vice President of the Women's Federation for the Preservation and Perpetuation of the First Family Traditions of America. West. Does rather roll off the tongue, doesn't it?
It has a ring to it.
But I promise you, here and now, I'll wash no more dishes, I'll grind no more corn, and I'll make no more soap. These aristocratic hands were only meant to hold a vice president's gavel.
Oh, you're doing beautifully, Mrs. Drysdale. I'm proud of you.
You sure got the hands for it, ain't you?
Miss Drysdale, your husband's here. He's going to dance with us.
Thank goodness. Oh, my hands. My hands. They'll never be the same again. There's nothing like milking a goat to pretty the hands.
Come on, Granny. We're getting ready for the Virginia reel. I'll fetch your lap organ in for you.
Oh, Mrs. Drysdale, have you seen this priceless antique lap organ?
Oh, so that's what it is. I mean, it's marvelous.
You like music, Miss Drysdale?
I adore music, especially the authentic lap organ.
I reckon Granny will let you have a turn, won't you, Granny?
Why, sure.
Mrs. Drysdale, did you hear that? Oh, what a red-letter day this is for you.
Oh, yes, indeed it is, Madam President.
Well, come on, let's get in there and get at it.
will. She's all punked out.
Excuse me. This is Miss Standish. I wanted the telephone. Long distance from Virginia.
Oh, that's headquarters. Mr. Clampett, if our genealogical records confirm those entries in your family Bible, you will make headlines from coast to coast. Your pictures will be in every newspaper. As direct descendants of the first family to settle Jamestown, you'll be celebrities, all of you. You'll be on radio, television, flown to New York for a ticker-tape parade, then on to Washington to meet the president, address a joint session of Congress. Statues will be erected of you.
Excuse me. The telephone?
Let her roll, Miss Hathaway. She's right. I've got to come down to earth long enough to get confirmation. Excuse me. Mrs. Smith Standish speaking. Yes? Yes. Oh, well, that was the entry in the old Bible I couldn't quite make out. Oh, well, Mr. Clampett is right here. I'm sure he'll be able to give us confirmation immediately. Mr. Clampett, if your great-grandfather's name was Ezekiel, you are the Clampett the world is waiting to discover.
Well, now, I kind of hate to disappoint you, ma'am, but his name was Jeremiah.
I could have told you that, Madam President. Not for one moment was I fooled.
I'm sorry. No, there seems to have been some kind of a mistake.
Jed? What's ailing you? You know doggone good and well your great-grandpappy's name was Ezekiel.
Yeah, I know, Granny. But what would an old mountain goat like me have to say to the president and Congress? Come on, everybody, let's have another Virginia reel.
It's the first week of spring, and Granny's swamping up her tonic for to give to all the family and her kin. Though it tastes mighty bitter, it is good for man and critter, 'cause it gets your blood to running free again. Granny's brew, it's good for you. If you're off your feet, you ought to have some too. Even Pa leaves his victuals. He just sits out front and whittles. Cousin Jethro, he's a-sleeping in the shade. Instead of doing her spring cleaning, on her mop Aunt Pearl's a-leaning. Granny better get that batch of tonic made. There's the gong. Won't be long till the family's back to feeling good and strong.
Line up, everybody. First come, first served. 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, Pearl, go ahead.
All right, you should go first, Jed. You're the head of the family.
Oh, no, Pearl, I ain't in no hurry. How about you, Willie Mae?
Oh, no, Pa, I was the last one in.
Well, I take it this family don't want to take my tonic?
Oh, no, Granny, it's good.
Well, then step up. Somebody be first.
Yeah, Pearl, go on ahead. Women have chosen first. That's the rule.
That's the rule for fire, flood, and disaster.
Yeah, it seems to me Granny's tonic ought to fit in there somewhere.
I heard what you said, Jed Clampett. And just for that, when it comes your turn, you're going to get a double dose. Now, step up, somebody, and get at it.
Hey, I got an idea. How about letting this little fella go first? He looks kind of puny.
Yeah, he's been acting kind of poorly lately, Granny. Tonic him first, Granny.
Sure seems to like it.
Yeah. You want some more? No, I reckon that's enough for a little critter like him. Yes, they're the best batch I ever made.
Miss Hathaway, these papers are ready for Judge Claffer's signature. Oh, incidentally, you did a fine job bringing his file up to date.
Thank you, Chief. I'll be right in. Mr. Drysdale, I wish to give credit where credit is due. Most of the work on the Clampett file was done by Miss Buckles here.
Huh? Buckles? Who's she?
A comparatively new girl, Chief. But already she has displayed those qualities so rare in the modern girl. Eagerness to learn, willingness to work, loyalty to the bank, devotion to duty.
All right, all right. How much of a raise does she want?
Oh, no, Mr. Drysdale. I didn't do it to get a raise. I did it because I'm sincerely interested in my work here. And I'm determined to become the best second best employee in your bank.
You hear that, Chief? Rare devotion to duty. And Miss Buckles worked on the Clampett file in her own time.
Very praiseworthy. All right, what's Mr. Clampett's present balance?
$34,783,127.34. That's not including the oil deposit due today.
Well, you are familiar with his file.
I feel that a job worth doing is worth doing right.
Unlike so many others, this girl is not here to find a husband. She is here to work, right, Gloria?
Right, Miss Hathaway.
You may call me Jane.
All right. Take these up to Mr. Clampett. I'll make sure he signs in all places indicated. Right, Chief?
Miss Hathaway, your time is so valuable, and I know that Mr. Drysdale needs you. I would never be missed from the secretarial pool.
Do you hear that, Chief? Is she a rare find?
I just try to be like you, Miss Hathaway.
Jane.
Jane.
Chief, if it's all right with you, she is familiar with the papers.
Huh? Oh, fine. Yeah, fine.
And Gloria.
Yes.
You must take my car.
Oh, no, Miss Hathaway.
Oh, tut, tut, tut. I insist.
Granny, you seen anything of Jed?
Not since I gave him that double dose of tonic.
I wonder if you had ought to double dosed him. Just one dose has Jethro jumping fences.
Hell, Jed's an older man. He can hold his tonic.
$34,783,127.34. $34,783,127.34.
Howdy, ma'am.
Well, how do you do? I'm Gloria Buckles from the Commerce Bank.
Oh, it's mighty nice to meet you. I'm Jed Clampett.
You?
Yes, ma'am.
But I was looking for a much older man.
Ain't no older men around here. Might could scare you up one in the neighborhood. Seems to me I seen an elderly fella down the road a piece.
No, I simply meant I couldn't believe that you were so young.
Well, maybe it's because I ain't.
You look so young. You do look young.
Is that a fact?
He's holding his tonic, but that ain't all. Tell you, Granny, I've seen it with my own eyes. That girl is young enough to be his daughter.
And you say he gave her a hug?
Grabbed at her like a crawdad grabs bait.
That old mountain goat? I didn't figure on him running wild.
Your tonic. You shouldn't have double-dosed him and him being a widower so long.
Jed'll come to his senses.
I don't know. There ain't no fool like old fool.
Jed ain't old.
He's old enough, but he ain't too old, and that's where the danger is.
You're making a hill out of a haystack.
Granny, I got a good look at this girl, and I'm telling you right now, that ain't hay. Real big city article. Not the kind of girl that Jed's used to meeting back home.
Oh, girls is girls, city or country. They all come out of the same catalog.
Maybe so. But the city girls make it look like there's more in the package.
Granny, Earl. Oh, there you are.
See what you mean, Pearl. She's wrapped tight and tied loose.
I want you all to meet Miss Gloria Buckles. This here is Granny and Cousin Pearl.
How do you do? I'm very pleased to meet you, ladies.
Howdy.
Hi.
Well, ain't she just about the prettiest thing you ever did see?
Yeah. Favors Ellie a lot. Just about her age, too, wouldn't you say, Granny?
A mite younger.
Who's Ellie?
His granddaughter. I mean, my granddaughter. She's Jed's daughter.
Oh, are you married, Mr. Clanford?
I'm a widower, ma'am.
Yeah, poor old Jed. I reckon he's come for another dose of his lumbago medicine, Granny.
I reckon. Poor old feller was up all last night with the misery.
A moaning and a groaning and a walking the floor.
The poor old fella is past the point where liniment does him any good.
Bless his poor sweet old bones.
Now, girls, that's just about enough of that. You both know I never had a twinge of the miseries in all my life. Knock on wood.
Pearl, his mind is wandering again.
Baby's fault, Granny. He missed his nap.
I want to apologize for them two, ma'am. They both just think they're being funny.
Well, I know what you mean. I have some elderly relatives like that myself. It's such a beautiful day. Why don't we go for a drive, Jed?
Thank you, ma'am. I'd like that, Gloria.
Did you hear what she called us? Elderly relatives.
Never mind that. It's what he called her and she called him, and now she's going to get him out alone in her car.
Let's get in the truck and follow him.
We can't drive.
Jethro can.
Oh, I don't want Jethro getting no ideas from his uncle. Don't forget, he's been tonic, too.
We has nothing to worry about. Jed's a man that can keep his feet on the ground.
Once he gets his arms around that girl, won't much matter where he keeps his feet.
By dingies, ma'am, if you hadn't brought her to a halt right when you did, we'd have gone right over that bluff. I'll get out and push her back on the road.
No, Mr. Clanford. I stopped here purposely.
Oh? How come?
Well, it's so beautiful and I'm so lonely.
Pretty woman like you. Why, I'd think these city boys would be standing in line for you.
Boys, yes. Men, no.
Well, I seen them here all ages.
Well, I'm afraid that years alone do not turn a boy into a man.
I reckon I know what you mean.
I blame that city down there. Something about it seems to close in on a boy and keep him small and immature all his life. Show me a boy that's grown up in the country, in the mountains especially, and I'll show you a man, a real man.
You're going to think I'm making this up on account of what you just said. But I growed up in the mountains.
No.
Yes, ma'am. Don't let that Beverly Hills mansion fool you. I'm a mountain boy, born and bred.
Of course. Of course, I see it now. I see it in those cool, clear eyes, unclouded by smog. Eyes that have looked beyond a city skyline and seen the truth and beauty of nature. I see it in this rugged, handsome face. I see it in these strong but gentle hands. Hands that have dug into the good earth, put life into it, and brought it forth. Hands roughened by honest toil.
Take another look at the face.
Did you see anything of them? Not a sign. Where could they be all this time? To the preacher, if you ask me. We should have followed them in the truck, like I said, and taken our chances with Jethro.
Now, don't shake your finger at me. It was your witch's brew that started this mess.
Don't you go calling my Spring Tonic any witch's brew.
Granny. We gotta stick together. If that young city snip gets her claws into Jed, first thing she's gonna do is get rid of us.
Oh, Jed wouldn't marry no city woman. Would he, Pearl?
Oh, Jed. What have you done to me?
Nothing, ma'am.
Oh, yes, you have. You've sentenced me to a life of loneliness. A life without love. A life unfulfilled.
Well, I don't know what you mean, ma'am. Honest, I don't.
I'll tell you what I mean. You set a standard no man could measure up to. A goal I could never achieve. Having met you, I could never care for a city man. Those weak and puny clothes dummies with their narrow suits and their narrow shoulders and their narrow minds.
Please, ma'am,
I have felt the muscles of a mountaineer ripple beneath my hands. Do you think I could ever be happy with anything less? No. I shall never marry. Better an old maid than a life with a man I could neither love nor respect.
Ma'am, don't feel that way. Pretty woman like you, smart and all. Why, it'd be a terrible shame if you was to never to get married and raise a flock of young'uns.
No.
Please, ma'am. I'd feel terrible if I thought you was wasting your life this way. Please change your mind. Well, Miss Gloria, if you're determined to marry a mountain man and none other, and unless you do it, your life will be ruined, maybe, and I get to know you better, I could find a way.
Oh, Jed.
Now, I ain't making no promises, but you set me to thinking. I reckon we'd best get back home and everybody get better acquainted.
Here they come, Granny. Here they come. If she thinks she's gonna throw us out, I'll fill her so full of buckshot that there's that he's coming up the driveway. Is they dragging tin cans behind the car? Yeah, put that gun away.
This situation calls for brains, not buckshot.
Partner, forgot your pocketbook.
Oh, those are some papers Mr. Drysdale wants you to sign.
Well, come on, let's get in here and get busy. Got a lot to do with signing and dancing and getting better acquainted. Well, I reckon the first thing I better do is sign them papers you got for me.
Yes, that's a good idea.
Is she wearing a wedding ring? Wait till she gets her gloves off. Don't see one. Good. Then they ain't been to the preacher.
What is old Em, anyway?
Well, this transfers your money from one account to the other. And this is your last will and testament.
They ain't been to the preacher, but they've been to the lawyer. And that's just as bad, or worse. We gotta stop him.
Oh, there you are, Jed. We've been looking all over for you. You give the doctor doctor a terrible fright disappearing like that.
Yeah. He was afraid you might have fell in the cistern again.
What are you talking about?
Why, Jed, clamp it. Shame on you. You know the doctor don't want you to have nothing sharp.
Pearl, what in the blue?
No, don't get excited, Jed. Doctor says it ain't good for him to get excited.
What do you... Oh, I almost forgot. Come on into the parlor. Got a surprise for you.
Surprise?
Come on.
All right, what's the surprise?
Well, the surprise is what Pearl and me found out about that woman whilst she was gone.
What'd you find out?
She's a spy. One of them foreign nations.
Which one?
Minneapolis, Wisconsin.
Yeah? Poor old fella. He ain't been himself since that mule kicked him in the head. I suppose he's been giving you that story about having lots of money and this house being his and all that.
Well, I did get the impression that he was a very wealthy man, yes.
Don't have a cent. Not a red penny to his name.
That is fact.
Yeah. But it ain't his fault, poor old thing. He didn't mean no harm.
You'll care.
Shook a few things loose in the loft.
Leave Kansas City, Illinois?
Now, Granny, I want you and Pearl to stop all this nonsense and listen carefully. You go out and round up Jethro and Ellie Mae. I want the whole family to get well acquainted with Miss Buckles here, because when you do, I just might have an announcement to make.
What about Jay?
You'll find out in due time, Pearl. Now, you and Granny go on, Scoot. This beautiful young lady here is going to teach me how to dance city style.
That's right, Mr. Drysdale. We didn't know who else to call. But we think this here woman's trying to get Jed's money. Well, she says her name is Gloria Buckles, but I don't know. What? Oh, well, yes, sir. Yes, sir, we will. Bye. Mr. Drysdale must know that woman. He's a-coming right over.
All gonna marry up with her?
Oh, child, we hope not. We pray not.
Why, Granny? Oh, I got to look at her, and boy, she's pretty.
Beauty is only skin deep, son.
Well, she must have awful deep skin, because every place I could see was...
Now, Mr. Drysdale says we's to keep her here till he comes.
I'll watch her, Ma.
You want your car.
How about I throw a down set on her?
Good idea. I'll sit with you.
No, Jed ain't gonna hold still for nothing rough. Now, Ellie, you and Jethro keep an eye on things. Granny and me's gonna do some plotting and thinking.
What'd you say this one was called?
This is called the twist.
If the fella was to dance this in a fresh plowed field, he'd auger his way right into the ground, wouldn't he? Hey, Jethro, come on in. You want to dance?
He'd rather dance with her, Uncle Jed.
That's what I had in mind, boy. Miss Buckles, this here is my nephew, Jethro.
Hiya.
You teach him that there twist, and I'll teach it to Ellie Mae. This is my daughter I've been telling you about.
Oh, what a beautiful child. You and I are going to be such good chums.
Ma'am, I think he meant for you to dance with me.
Springtime, Chief. There's my car.
Yes. Now, where's your protege? That loyal, devoted, hard-working gold digger.
I still can't believe it. So shy, so retiring.
She'll be retiring if she hooks Jed Clampett.
Jethro, I reckon you better answer that door.
Okay, Uncle Jed.
Howdy.
Oh, how do you do, ma'am? I'm sorry to intrude.
Howdy, folks. Come on in. Dig yourselves a hole.
Gloria Buckles.
Huh? Where?
There.
Oh, I know it is. You imposter.
Jezebel!
You gold digger.
I have a bulletin for you two. You better be nice to me, or else after my wedding, you may lose your largest depositor.
Wedding?
Mr. Clampett. Have things gotten as far as actually discussing marriage with this woman?
Well, yes, Mr. Drysdale, they have. Her and me had a nice long talk about it, and that's the reason I brought her home, so she could meet the family, kind of get acquainted. But this pretty young city woman says that unless she can marry a mountain man, she just ain't gonna get married at all. I think we all agree that'd be a terrible waste.
Should we set the date now, Jed?
Well, yeah, near as we can. I'd say everybody willing that it'd be in about 3 or 4 years.
3 or 4 years?
Yeah, be that long before Jethro's 21.
Jethro?
Hot diggity dog, I got me a wife!
Paul, ain't you gonna marry up with that city woman?
No, L.A.S., old foxes is trap shy, especially when the bait goes to chasing us.
Madam, I don't think you understand. I'm from the Internal Revenue Service. That's a department of the...
Hop in that puddle jumper and cut mud out of here.
But I only want to talk about Mr. Clampett's return.
He ain't going nowhere. You keep hanging around here, you ain't going nowhere neither.
Now, see here, madam, I insist. I'll be back.
I'll be waiting.
What's all the ruckus, Granny? Who was that?
That blame revenuer.
Sure?
Came right out and admitted it himself.
Well, we don't want no trouble with the law. And besides, you said you were going to stop running your still.
I ain't been. But I don't want no revenuer snooping around. They're the lowest form of varmints. Even he was ashamed of being one.
What?
Called it the Infernal Revenue Service.
Internal Revenue Service?
That's right.
Well, sit down.
Thank you.
Well, now, it's a pleasure to have you visit my struggling little bank. See that?
You?
There we are. Yes, it's always a pleasure to see you splendid chaps from the Internal Revenue Service. You know, I was just talking to my taxman yesterday. Aspen?
No. Mr. Drysdale, I'm not here to talk about your income tax return.
You're not?
No. But your taxman did handle the return for Mr. J.D. Clampett, right?
Oh, yes. Mr. Clampett is my largest depositor. Wonderful man. Salt of the earth. Honest as a day is long. Lovely family.
Mr. Drysdale, I was just fired on by a member of that lovely family.
Fired on, you mean shot at?
With a double-barrel 12-gauge shotgun. Wielded expertly by a little old lady no bigger than this.
Granny. Oh, Mr. Landman, you have to understand these people.
Oh, I understood her fine. What I don't understand is this. How can a man show an income of millions for last year and not one red penny for all the years previous?
Oh, well, I can explain that.
Well, the Treasury Department will appreciate it.
Now, this is the beautiful mansion you just visited, right?
No, I would hardly call it a visit. Skirmish might be a better word. This is the house, yes.
Hey, Mr. Landman, would you believe that 8 months ago they lived here?
No, frankly, I wouldn't.
I give you my word. The poorest, most uninformed people imaginable. Like when an oil company tried to explore their swamp, old Jed's daughter hit him with a rock. Thought he was a revenuer.
What you got there?
Stranger?
Where'd you get him?
I dinged him with a rock.
What for?
He was skulking around down by the slough. Figured he might be a revenuer.
He ain't no revenue.
Then can I keep him?
Of course not.
Well, I called him.
Don't matter.
Well, he won't be no trouble. I could keep him out in the smokehouse.
Ellie Mae, you can't keep people like they were dogs and cats.
Who's that?
Some feller Ellie found nosing around.
Beamed him with a rock so it'd be easier to tote.
That dear fella's from the petroleum company.
What's a petroleum?
I don't know. He asked me if he could do some wildcatting down by the slough. I said, help yourself. We're glad to get rid of the critters.
What he say?
Just kind of laughed. The laugh's on him. There ain't no wildcats down there at that slough.
Heck no. It's too full of oil.
Are you trying to tell me they didn't know oil was valuable?
Even when the oil company geologists told them, they didn't understand.
Mr. Clampett, that swamp of yours is full of oil.
I could have told you that.
Well, my company would like to pump it out.
Yeah, I'd like that too, but I just can't afford to have it done.
Oh, no, you don't understand. You see, you wouldn't have to pay for it.
Oh, I don't take favors from strangers.
No, Mr. Clampett, you see, you're a very rich man.
Stranger, if money was skunk oil, a hound dog couldn't smell me.
It's a swamp. My company will buy that land. Why, they'll raise so many derricks down there that...
Son, I gotta be honest with you, you couldn't raise turnips down there.
Right. That ground looks black and rich. But it's so greasy you can just squeeze the oil out of it.
But that's what my company wants.
Maybe you better sit down for a spell.
Why, even after Mr. Clampett sold his swamp, he didn't know how much money he'd gotten until his cousin Pearl heard the news and came rushing over.
Stop this thing! Stop it! Heaven protect us! Did they hit us, kid?
Oh, but I think they sure want the chicken house.
I'm sure sorry about the chicken house, but nobody got hurt. Jethro, I told you to get rid of them worn-out brakes.
I did, Ma. That's how come we ain't got none.
Get on out and lift the chicken house back on its foundation. Jed?
Yeah.
Jed, Ellie Mae came running over to my place, and she said you sold the swamp to some oil company.
Well, yeah, I guess I did.
What did they pay you for it?
Well, he ain't paid me nothing yet. The Brewster fella said he'd bring the money later.
How much they gonna pay you?
Well, he said that'd depend some on how much oil they could pump out.
Well, you must have mentioned some figure. What was it?
Well, now, Pearl, you know that old swamp one where it shuts.
Jed, Clampett, you got slickered and you're ashamed to admit it.
That's just what I told him.
Granny, how much they gonna pay him?
All right, I'll tell you. He said around somewhere between 25 and 100.
25 and 100?
I know it don't sound like much, but Mr. Brewster seemed to set great store by the fact he's going to pay me in some new kind of dollar.
There ain't no new kind of dollars.
Well, it's new to me. I've heard of gold dollars, silver dollars, paper dollars, but he says he's going to pay me in, what do you call them, Granny?
$1 million.
Yeah, that's it.
$1 million?
Well, he wrote the whole thing out on this piece of paper. Here, you can see for yourself. I don't know nothing about that kind of stuff.
Let's see here. Thanks in heaven. Granny, give me the jug.
It's empty, but I'll fetch some.
I'll go, Granny.
Jed, you're a millionaire. A millionaire.
Yeah, that's what that Brewster fella kept calling me. I didn't know just how to take it.
You meant you're rich.
Me?
The richest man in these hills. Maybe in the whole state. Oh, Jed, you can have anything you want. Do anything you want. Go any place you want.
Yeah, that's another thing he kept saying. He said he reckoned I'd be moving away from here soon. What do you think, Pearl? You think I ought to move?
Jed, how can you even ask? Look around you. You're 8 miles from your nearest neighbor. You're overrun with skunks, possums, coyotes, bobcats. You use kerosene lamps for light. You cook on a wood stove, summer and winter. You're drinking homemade moonshine, washing with homemade lye soap. And your bathroom is 50 feet from the house, and you ask, should you move?
Yeah, I reckon you're right. Man, be a dang fool to leave all this.
You know, Mr. Drysdale, in the Internal Revenue Service, we hear some pretty wild stories. But this corn pone to caviar saga of Jed Clampett tops everything.
Well, if you think it's been unbelievable so far, wait until you hear the rest of it.
What I can't understand is how a man so insulated from the rest of the world ever heard about Beverly Hills, California.
I can explain that in 2 words. Cousin Pearl. She's the one who had her sights set on California.
Oh, there you are, Jed. You misunderstood me. I meant you should move away. And you know where I'd go if I was you?
Where?
California.
California?
Yes, sir. Beverly Hills, California. I hear tell it's full of millionaires out there. And movie stars, too.
In what?
Movie stars. Jed, remember the time that your pa took us to Eureka Springs to see the movie picture?
Yeah.
Well, the actors that make their movie pictures live in Beverly Hills.
Go on.
Yes, sir.
Well, doggy. Wouldn't that be something? Living in the same neck of the woods with old Tom me.
It sure would. And we could come visit you. You know what else they say about California?
What?
It don't get cold out there.
What don't get cold out there?
Nothing don't get cold out there. They don't have no snow or no ice.
Can't they bring some in?
They don't want it. That's why'd be so good for Granny. Remember last winter when she slipped on the ice and broke her hip?
Yeah, poor old woman. She was limping for 2 days.
Well, that couldn't happen in California because they don't have no ice.
How come?
I don't know how come. But Granny'd sure like it, and we could visit you.
Maybe Jethro know how come there's no ice. He's going to school.
We could ask him. Jethro?
Yeah, Ma.
Come on over here. Speaking of school, Ellie Mae could get herself a fine education out there in Beverly Hills.
Yeah, Ma?
Your rich uncle's got a question he'd like to ask you.
What rich uncle, Ma?
Your rich Uncle Jay.
Jethro? How come there's no ice in California? Don't look at me. I didn't take it. Well, I didn't, Ma.
Oh, get out of here.
Well, you always do. I don't mean.
I was saying, Jay, folks claim California's got it all beat. Why, things grow twice as big out there.
Jethro would be a whopper, wouldn't he?
He could help you move. He's awful handy at lifting and toting, and he could drive you out in my truck.
I tell you what, Pearl. I'm going to have to study on this. When that Brewster fella comes back, I'll ask him what he thinks.
Yes, it was Cousin Pearl who planted the idea of moving to Beverly Hills, but it was Mr. Brewster who made it possible.
Who's he?
Vice president of the oil company that bought Mr. Clampett's land. Yes, Brewster's often told me the story of that fateful evening.
Well, your cousin is right about that, Mr. Clampett. Beverly Hills is a choice residential area, and lots of millionaires do settle there.
Folks like me, huh?
Well, millionaires.
And movie stars, too.
Oh, yeah.
Is Tom Mix there?
No, I'm afraid Mr. Mix is dead.
Oh? Oh, yeah. Oh, what's the matter with me? Remember Pearl? He got shot at the end of that picture.
Well, there are plenty other movie stars, and that's where Jed wants to live. Ain't it, Jed?
I do like the notion of living in the hills. Never could stand flat country.
Mr. Clampett, I think it only fair. That is, well, I think you may have a wrong idea about Beverly Hills.
Is that where you live?
No, my home is in Tulsa.
Well, see, maybe you could get us a place there in your neighborhood.
Mr. Clampett, let's not beat around the bush. You will love Beverly Hills.
Then that's it. Can you steer Jed onto a good place?
No, I can get the bank out there to handle it for him.
He'd like a nice big place with plenty of room for his kinfolk to visit him.
I would like a nice, roomy place if I could afford it.
Oh, Mr. Clampett, with your money, you can afford the Taj Mahal.
Okay, I'll take it.
Well, no, you see, I was just making a little joke.
Oh, well, go right ahead.
Well, you see, the Taj Mahal is in India.
Mr. Brewster, you're a nice fella, but I've heard better jokes.
Is the foreigner staying to supper?
I'm ashamed to say I ain't asked him. How about it?
Oh, I don't think so.
Oh, no trouble. What you cooking tonight, Granny?
Mustard greens and possum innards.
Mm-hmm. Did you hear that, Mr. Brewster?
Very clearly.
Change your mind?
Not this time.
Well, if you should happen to come back tomorrow, we'll be having leftovers. That's the thing about possum innards. He's just as good the second day.
What a family. So, anyway, they packed up and came to Beverly Hills.
Well, it wasn't quite that simple. Mr. Clampett had his problems.
With $25 million, he had problems?
Ah, yes. The first one was his daughter. She didn't want to leave her friends.
Friends? And I thought they lived in a completely unpopulated area.
They did. Her friends were not the kind you and I have.
Now, I ain't gonna be here to look after you no more. So you're gonna have to keep yourself out of trouble. Watch out for them coyotes and them bobcats and them hunters with guns. Stay out of folks' gardens, 'cause you know how it riles up Granny when you get in hers. Except when we're gone, you can have everything that's left. I'm sorry there ain't gonna be room enough on the truck to take you along. But maybe you wouldn't like California anyhow. Maybe I ain't gonna like it either. If I don't, then I'm a-coming hightailing it right back here, and me and you'll set up housekeeping all by ourselves.
Ellie? Ellie Mae?
Yeah, Paul, over here.
You feeling all right, Ellie? You didn't eat your supper.
Sure, Paul. I just wasn't hungry.
Cold? You're shaking like a sumac leaf.
Oh, Paul, I ain't cold. I'm scared.
Scared? Why? There ain't nothing in this woods can hurt you, even in the dark.
It ain't the woods or the dark. It's going so far away. I don't know what it's going to be like out there in Beverly Hills.
Why, it's going to be just like here. Except we'll have things a lot nicer.
Will I go to school and wear fancy dresses like city girls and put powder on my face and get my hair all fixed up in one of them there beauty parlors?
Why, sure you will.
Well, then I ain't going.
I want you to meet the Clampetts under different circumstances. You'll find them to be really charming people.
Including Granny?
Oh, yes. This time you'll get a completely different reception. I promise you.
You sound the alarm if you see that revenue man coming.
I will, Granny.
I'll blast him before he gets through that gate.
Of course, even after Mr. Clampett convinced his daughter to leave her animal friends, he still had Granny to contend with.
I guess she didn't like the notion of being uprooted.
That's putting it mildly. The way he tells it, she just downright refused to budge.
Ellie, if old Duke sits there with you, there ain't gonna be room for Granny.
Oh, that's all right, Paul. Granny ain't gone.
Who says she ain't?
She says she ain't.
That's right, Uncle Jed. She's just sitting on the back porch in her rocker, and she says that's as close to California as you're gonna get her.
We'll see about that. Dang if I ain't got me the muliest women. First it's Ellie, now it's Granny. We ain't never gonna get there. Now, what's all this nonsense about you ain't going to California?
Ain't no nonsense to it. If the good Lord had wanted me in California, he'd have put me in California.
Maybe he's just getting around to it. The book says he moves in mysterious ways.
Well, if he moves me, I'll go. But you and Big Jethro ain't a-budging me.
Granny, this here Beverly Hills sounds like the kind of place you'd like. That preacher fella says they got smogs out there.
What's a smog?
Well, me and Jethro figured out that's a small hog. And you heard what Pearl said. It ain't got no snow out there. You could run your still the year round.
Runs the year round here.
Yeah, but walking down through the snow to the still always makes you feel so miserable.
I might feel miserable walking down, but the way I feels coming back makes up for it.
Hey, friend, we've been planning and talking about this trip for days. You never said you wouldn't go.
Never said I wouldn't either.
But that Buster feller has bought us a house in them Beverly Hills. He sent our $25 million to the bank out there.
Well, you just chase on out after it. I'm staying right here. And I ain't afeared neither.
Granny, I ain't leaving you here alone.
And I ain't a-budging out of this rocker.
Let her roll, Jethro.
Only a man of Jed Clampett's strength and authority could have handled Granny.
He'll be there when we get to the Clampett place, won't he?
Oh, sure. You have nothing to worry about. There's the entrance up ahead.
Yes, I know.
There's a car stopping at the gate, Granny.
They closed the gate since I left.
I'll get it. You know, this reminds me of an experience I had when the Clampetts first moved in. I was leaving and found the gates closed. Hello? Hello? Mr. Clampett, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Good, good. I need your help.
Sounds like you're inside the wall.
I am. Would you let me out, please?
Well, you bet I will. You stay right where you are. I'll get me an axe and have you out of there in no time.
He demolished 10 feet of wall before I could stop.
Granny, Mr. Drysdale's opening the gate.
Good. He's leading that revenuer right into a trap.
We ain't gonna shoot nobody.
He ain't nobody. Revenuers and buzzards don't count.
You go on inside and cook up some victuals.
Since when is a revenuer coming?
Mr. Clampett, I'd like you to meet Mr. Lapp.
Pleased to meet you, Mr. Clampett.
Howdy do, Mr. Landman. Since you're a friend of Mr. Drysdale's here, I reckon you're welcome. But as you can see, we don't cotton to revenuers.
I'm not a revenuer, Mr. Clampett. I guess back in the hills where you come from, I'd be a tax collector.
Back in the hills where I come from, you'd be a lot younger.
Oh? Was the climate that healthy?
Oh, just you wouldn't have lived to get this old.
Ed, is the revenuer staying to supper?
He ain't no revenuer.
Well, is the foreigner staying to supper?
How about it, Mr. Landman? You too, Mr. Drysdale.
You're not by any chance cooking mustard greens and possum innards, are you?
Not tonight.
Oh, we had them last night.
I'll stay.
Me too.
Tonight we is having leftovers.
That's the thing about possum innards. It's just as good the second day.